spring and fall for sailboat season. Now the Chicago School started a wave, my friends, that has never stopped in Chicago. We are still a world-class architectural city. Today, it comes from a young woman, Studio Gang. Her first skyscraper, the Aqua we'll look at later, but right now her latest skyscraper, 3 towers coming together, Vista Towers by Jeannie Gang. They just topped out at 11. They won at once. We'll see her Aqua Towers later. Now, Jeannie Gang likes to work organically. She wanted a more multifaceted building than just a box. So look at these interesting images. Look at the top of this building again, and just imagine this in 1930. They had this grandiose, crazy idea. They decided they were going to use the dome on top of the Medina Athletic Club as a landing pad for airships, blimps. William Wrigley Jr., 1921. North faced out in 1924. William Wrigley Jr. premiered Juicy Fruit Gum at the Columbian Exposition World's Fair, 1893. Fair home with him. That's what the World's Fair elegance looked like right there. Now, the Wrigley Building is Spanish Revival. It's inspired by the 11th century wall of towers in Spain. Now, in that revivalist period, going back to old past eras, look at the temple. I'll date that to 3003 BC. It's modeled after the temple of Socrates. Now, the cladding on the Wrigley Building is terracotta. Terracotta was really popular after the Great Chicago Fire. Not only does it look great, but it's fireproof. That was your most important consideration. Now, if you look at the terracotta tiles, Charles Biersman, the main architect, he's using terracotta like an artist. You ever watch a painter work on canvas? I live with artists. Their home is a studio. You know, that's one of the greatest painters, in my opinion, have now. They're shading. They can control the brush. So what Biersman did, he put each uniform tiles like that. He had them paint in 6 different colors, like blue, white, premier white, and suddenly it's that much more interesting to the eye. We come to our Grand Boulevard, Michigan Avenue. We Chicagoans call it the French Manor Boulevard Mich. It was inspired by the Grand Boulevards of Paris. Daniel Burnham wanted Chicago to become known as Paris on the Prairie. But let's take it to the bridge. What happened to the bridge? The bridge we have named DuSable Bridge. We honor our first permanent resident, the French-speaking fur trader from Haiti, Jean-Baptiste Mongus. He started a fur trading empire right there, man, in 1779. The World's Fair influence, once again, beautiful building, even building, classical water tanks, is the Jewelers Building of 1926, Italian revival. It's inspired by a 15th century Italian monastery, the Cosa de Maria. It was built here for the diamond trade. Now imagine back in 1926, you would drive your Model T filled with diamonds from Lower Wacker Drive right into your basement, your car lifted by an elevator. Now you would meet it and retrieve your diamonds and run through that building like a happy squirrel with a sack of nuts. You felt safe. Safety was an issue. This was prohibition. Alcohol was illegal. But I'll give you a tip. Chicago's never been crime. You could have a drink when it was illegal, like going to a speakeasy. You had to have a password. And rumor has it, there was one of the famous Chicago speakeasies right at the top of that building. We can't prove that. Speakeasies did not advertise. But as soon as they lifted prohibition, the Stratosphere Lounge opens for business. See the black box on the right? This is the epitome of the style known as modernism. The Chicago School influenced the Bauhaus. Who knows about the Bauhaus? Very famous art compound in 1920s Germany. Institute of Technology here. It's spread the modernist style around the world. Now the Bauhaus architects were utilitarian and functional. Their idea of a building was that you didn't need any decoration. It just had to be what was holding the building up. As Mies van der said, less is more. Less is more. It's really easy to think of modern architecture. All you need are these 3 words. Skeleton, skin, space. Because you've done away with the decoration. Skeleton is the frame holding your building up. Skin is the glass curtain wall you hang on the frame. And space, about 90% of the time for the modernist, was a square. And then you run into a rebel in the modernist world, Bertrand Goldberg, who didn't like squares, hence his curvilinear Marina City Towers, earning their nickname the Corncob Towers in the 60s. Although Goldberg had studied with Mies van der Rohe, he rejected boxes for a circle to bring people together, referring to this as curvilinear flower form. Core-like stem housing elevators and utilities. And then building the rings like the petals, one at a time. Maybe I should go to that guy's job and yell at him too. So Marina City was a city within a city. It's the 1960s, written by the janitors union. Not everybody wanted to have to commute in from the suburbs, right? A lot of people working on these buildings, they wanted to live downtown, but they wanted 24-hour living, and you didn't have that, so we put it all on. Look at 55 West Wacker Drive. That's a subset of modernism called brutalism, coming from the French béton brut or raw concrete. Now, as you look at that building, think of it this way. The brutalists were modernists who took steroids. Yeah, they celebrate structure, they just went a little over the top. But the brutalist movement wanted to give your institution a sense of gravitas. And you'll find it was very popular with university campuses and public institutions. It was also with that kind of very popular in the turbulent period in the 1960s. Step back to 1913, the red brick building with the clock tower is the Reed Murdoch Center by George Niemans. Niemans associated with the Prairie School of Architecture. Prairie School architects of our flat Midwestern landscape. Notice on the side is the horizon, the height, the up to the horizon balanced by the clock tower. Count the bays, it's asymmetrical, 5 on the right and the 4 on the left. The 5th bay on this end had to go out. The bridge above your head was coming in. They were widening LaSalle Street around 1926 for the coming bridge. The building, which had already been there for 13 years, it came out to the west. So they de-widened it. They plowed through the building. And I made up the word de-widen just for my tour. That's not a real word. Do not use it in Scrabble. That train going overhead is Chicago L. That's short for elevated. I remember my first ride on the elevated train. It was 1892, and we had it ready for the World's Fair in 1993. The Chicago School 1912 Coffee Warehouse, right there. Look at this building, and there are 3 elements from the early Chicago school buildings we still use today. Number 1, internal frame to support the weight. And that's what gives you number 2. Big windows to let in natural light, which even became known as the Chicago window in the building frames. Imagine the 3rd element with me, it's underground. You know the Great Lakes were carved out by glaciers. The moraines are very soft soil. So what do you think's holding these buildings up? As important as what you see in the skyscraper is what you don't see, the caissons. Support posts are watertight box-up structures built with concrete, and you're talking 65 feet at least. That far down, drill down to land on something solid. A quick nod on our right, one of the grandest examples of Art Deco, that rather streamlined angular style, coming out of the Paris exhibition of 1925, the 1930 Chicago Merchandise Mart, largest structure in American art. We'll come back to that building on the way back. Right now, welcome to the beginning of Chicago, folks. This is Bull Point. It's the confluence of the South Branch left, North Branch right. We approach from the east. If it were the 1800s, we'd all be having a drink down here. Before Chicago was a city, they got really good at building bars and taverns, so we'd never go thirsty again. Where you see the Bauhaus Holiday Inn and 2 and 3 Wood Point Towers, Miller House Tavern 1827, the new River Point Office Complex, great photo if you can catch it. You know how you put an archway in architecture? To say we're special. This is where the 3 branches that would have been the Miller House Tavern 1827. And it's very apropos that there's all this partnering going on right here on the Riverwalk, because right here in 1800s, you would have found Chicago's only hotel and Eagle Exchange Tavern, the Sauganash. That's Native American Potawatomi for Englishmen. Now the old Sauganash Hotel was not run by Billy Caldwell, who it was named for. Sauganash really means English-speaking Canadian. It was run by his best friend, the French-Canadian Creole fellow. The man who played the flute and sang. Renaissance. You know what's actually happening will actually be named Salesforce, because Salesforce just had the tallest building in the Bay Area. Now, when you look around, you see how much public space is here. This is because we brought the loop back to life with nightlife. Anybody on board going to see Hamilton, for example? That's happening all the time. I also must give a shout out to San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio has a river walk. They did it in the 1980s. We in Chicago paid attention and said, that's what our architect Daniel Burnham wanted us to do. Better late than never, our river walk has been years in the making. Here's a piece of history for you. A single-leaf Bastille Bridge, the Carroll Street Bridge, was the old Chicago-Galena Union Line, started in 1848 when Galena was bigger than Chicago. Today, it's a piece of urban art, kept around to scare the people living over here at Fulton House on our left. Harry Weiss, 1981. This building was built in 1898, a refrigerated warehouse for 70 years. Before architect Weiss could punch those windows for condos through the 3-foot thick walls, he had to defrost it like your freezer for 2 whole months. Inspired by the Danube River and postmodernism, Harry Weiss in 1989 built the 4 coolest townhomes in Chicago and the river cottages. You know what? Somebody moved out. There's only 4. Never saw it happen until 2015. They sold for about $2.3 million. Now, you know the porthole windows, like you'd find on a ship, everything has a nautical theme. Harry Weiss was an architect and truly a sailor. He understood the river when he said, water is a magnet. Water always seems to draw people to it. I think that Harry Weiss understood the psychologist Carl Jung. That we human beings have a Jungian archetype in our brain. Don't we long for the sea, the original source, the great blue, the azul? And if you do not have an ocean nearby at home, there are days when you wake up and have an epiphany, and your soul will know that the only thing you will ever need is the Chicago River by your side. I'm going to let you ponder that thought. Let's take a little break as we're going to turn the boat around. This is a great time to see Sandy, your bartender back there. She's lonely. She makes a great Bloody Mary vodka lemonade. Ask her about Shoreline Shillelagh, which I think is, if you're getting cold, which is Bailey's coffee and whiskey. She'll make you drink used mushrooms. Or a wine to come she one by one. Take questions offline, and then I'll join you on the Michael's Wax. Thanks. The train will not 1990. Friends, a little behind you, there's Randolph Place. That's a 1900s era Chicago School warehouse. Okay, folks. Attention, folks. Attention, folks. I am going to ask for your cooperation. Folks, can I have your attention, please? I'm asking for your cooperation. You must keep your voices down so everyone can hear the tour. You are free to take photos, but if you're not taking photos, please sit down so you're not blocking your fellow passengers. After your photo is taken, and please keep your direct photo comments down as well. So we come now to Art Deco. 1925, a big exhibition in Paris, France led to Art Deco. Art Deco. Big exhibition in Paris, France. Now, Art Deco in America, we're forgetting the European handmade design. We wanted to be modern and machine age. That meant streamlined and massive at the same time. The Civic Opera Building is a perfect marriage of pragmatism and art. You start with an opera house, surround yourself with corporate towers you always have revenue still coming in. The Chicago Daily News Building is Art Deco as well streamlined and massive. Now, we saw the Chicago School of the 1900s. Gateway Center now an air-bridge project surrounding Union Station. We're in the 60s now. The era, right? The man in the gray flannel suit. It's the pure black box modernism of East Boston. Strip the buildings down to skeleton skin in space. Now we're going to go forward in time yet again. The black box modernism is a little bit harsh. So how are we going to soften that as we go forward in time? We're going to clear the frame in concrete. And now we're going to gateway green building. Then going from the 1960s into the 1970s. And this is what became known as international style. The international style modernists were of the point we need to have one building. No historic precedent. One box. You can put it anywhere on the globe. And then we'll just keep doing that same building over and over and over. That was kind of what happened for a long time. Take a step back in time. 1945. Look across the plaza at Union Station, one of the last great rail terminals in America. Go inside if you have a chance. Just go for the Great Hall. It's inspired by Robert Bass, including printing columns, marble staircases throughout. And if you want to get your own kicks on Route 66 and highway lines from Chicago to LA, it's right about there. Find yourself at the Art Institute of Michigan in Chicago, and you can get a cool selfie with little roads. Now the next building of Gateway Center is this one building with a truss tube support system. This was the former Midwest Commodities Exchange. And by putting those truss tubes on the outside, you have less columns inside so the traders can communicate behind the scenes. So now we're going to go again into the 1980s, and we're into the contextualist period. Now contextualism is what I say basically instead of postmodernism sometimes. Basically, here's what happened. Remember our friend Mies van der Rohe, known for the glass box. Mies passes away in 1969. And then for about 10 years, you have the imitators. Everybody wants to be Mies van der Rohe, and the world is flooded with glass boxes. Do you remember this period? Your condo looked like a factory. Your school looked like a factory. Your stores look like factories. You get really excited, you get invited out to dinner to a 5-star restaurant. You walk through the doors, it's like you're eating in a factory. People got bored. So the contextual architects said, enough already, your boxes give us a headache. We want to look like something again. We want to bring decoration back into the fold. My own personal metaphor, after modernism, you might think of architects, they became like modern day DJs. I really mean that. The same way that DJs sample different musical styles, architects began to sample architectural styles and do a remix into something new. The old main post office of Chicago on our right is being renovated, my friends. This is Art Deco from 1921. Who saw the Batman movie The Dark Knight? Welcome to the Gotham City Bank. The Joker was robbing in the opening scene. They filmed that right inside. entire city block. Why did we need such a gigantic building to handle mail? Maybe because the mail order catalog business was invented in Chicago in 1872 by that friend of the farmer, A. Montgomery Ward, followed by Sears and Roebuck. But even without those mail order houses, we would build a giant post office. For Chicago, you do it big, we'll do it bigger. 1941, largest post office on earth, 2.7 million square feet. Booyah. But elevators can slow down the mail. Waiting for elevators can feel like waiting for Godot. As a friend of mine like Beckett might say, you're never certain if they're ever going to show up. So the post office hasn't been there in 25 years. They jumped the bridge. They built a new headquarters, consolidating new operations. Now, Chicagoans know this already. We've been disappointed in the former post office for 25 years. You see developers come and go, and they announce grandiose plans to rebuild the post office, and nothing happens. There are a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. So I was excited 3 years ago when I found out about 601 West Coast, who got it for $200 million, ready to put another $400 million into the project. I did my homework. 601 West Coast is a New York firm. They had a big hand developing the west side of Manhattan in New York City. I said, yes, this is a party with a track record. And then I found out they own the Civic Opera Building. Even better, they are interested in Chicago. And they did everything right. They got Walgreens drugstore, open as an anchor tenant. And then they got Mahara Chocolate, 3,000 employees of the meal delivery system, Chef, and others. Two massive condominium projects going on right now. One year it was in the road. The total is 3,600 residents today. Now what you notice, see as we go further south, look how the skyline is shown. The really tall office buildings kind of drop off right now. And that's because you have to realize the business district, the original business district, had borders. The river was north. The lake was east. And you know, you wanted to be by the lake in those early days for boats, for shipping. And south and west, you had railroad tracks. Now, in those days, if you were in business, you had to be downtown where the action was. Think way back, my friends, before cell phones, before email, even before text messaging. Once upon a time, business was a handshake. You would meet your customer not Facebook to Facebook, but face to face. I used to put two people in the same room and they would talk to each other. OMG, imagine sin. So you see, Chicago didn't have a choice. We couldn't sprawl out, so we learned how to build higher and higher and higher. And I tip my hat every day to Mr. Otis. Have you guessed that River City, from 1986 on our left, is Bertrand Goldberg? And you see this is the same architect who did the Marina City Towers. Goldberg was the modernist who thought outside the box. Unintended when I say that. So when his teacher, Mies van der Rohe Spears, were doing all those boxes in the 1960s, he rebelled. And he wrote in his journal, I rebel against the century of static. I rebel against the straight line. I refuse to remake humanity in the image of the machine. So in Marina City, he called it a flower, right? Now he's going for snakes, reptiles. He said River City came to him as a mythical river snake. And it would have looked like a serpent. It was never finished. Supposed to have 5 buildings in the next bridge. Can you see the gentle hand of the greatest expressionist in architecture, Antonio Gaudi? I see Gaudi as a definite influence on Berkeley. Okay. We know this because newspaper reporter Michael Ahern admitted it all in an interview during the World's Fair. But even then, the legend did not die. It was carried on in folk songs, good proclamation. This day forward in 1997, the late Mrs. O'Leary, formerly of the Colvin Street, and her most favorite cow, Daisy, also of the Colvin Street, are forevermore exonerated of all guilt causing the Great Chicago Fire. Do you realize what this means, my friends? The city of Chicago pardoned a cow. But mythopoetically speaking, I must tell you something. That Great Chicago Fire is still with us today. It gives all the it's always good to practice double note tube and throat singing on the boat quiz. Okay, the Sears Tower, or Willis Tower, I must tell you about that. In 2009, London-based insurance brokerage, the Willis Group, took our Sears Tower, which has been here since '74, and they wanted naming rights. They moved into 3 floors, so officially that building is called the Willis Tower. So in Chicago, we call this building the Willis Tower, but oddly, many Chicagoans pronounce the word Willis Sears. That's how you say it. Call it Sears, call it Willis, call it Swillis, what you will. Let's just talk about it for a minute. The construction technique is called the bundle tube system. Think of the building like a bundle of sticks wrapped together for strength. It literally consists of 9, number 9, number 9 continuous steel tubes, each is 75 foot square. 2 will stop at 50 floors, 2 at 66 on your left there, 3 stop at 90, the final 110 stories. Why terminate the different sections? Because you were in the Windy City. And although the nickname for Chicago, Windy City, had nothing to do with the wind, it referred to our early politicians being like me, bragging so much they were known to be full of hot air. I can tell you this, Chicago's a windy city with 81 mile an hour winds, you have to deal with that. Now personally, when I look at the Sears Tower and I think about the winds, it brings to my mind, of course, the great Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, writing in the Tao Te Ching, can one learn to be flexible? Can you follow the way of nature, the Tao? Can you yield and overcome? Can you bend and yet remain straight? And I say my Sears Tower is following the Tao, for it can bend and remain straight, having a sway factor of 8 inches from one side to the other, with a possible sway, if necessary, of 3 feet, 18 inches from one side to the other. Tallest building in the world for 25 years. Tallest building on Earth today, Burj Khalifa, Dubai, 2,717 feet. That's the tallest in the world. It's not in Chicago. Do not fret and do not cry. Who was architect of the Burj Khalifa, Dubai? Chicago guy. Our architect, Adrian Smith, who did the NBC Tower and the Trump Hotel. Look all the way over to the right, my friends. I'm going to say hello to the statue of Ceres, the Roman goddess of grain, giving us the word cereal from in English. She is perched atop the Art Deco 1930 Chicago Board of Trade. Now, 1980, 50 years later, world-class architect from Germany, Helmut Jahn, adds an annex to the Board of Trade. And this, my friends, is Eco Deco. It's like a cousin to contextualism. Now, in Eco Deco, you're going to find the styles of the past hinted at with modern materials. So you have all that glass, aluminum, steel, but look, you've got the Art Deco roof, the dramatic setbacks, the sculptural aluminum trading floor. A little bit of Jungian synchronicity. Take your thumb and forefinger, isolate the annex alone. Cool how it looks like a wood ornament from the automobiles of the 1930s, which would be the heyday of Art Deco, style the original building as well. Let us complete this island of contextualism with the pink tower in front of the Sears Tower. It goes by its street address, 311 South Park. Now, we would describe it as castellated garden. Hey, James, can I get a cup of tea? A cup of hot tea? My throat, castellated garden. It looks like the turn of a Gothic castle. And look up to the crown. There are almost 2,000 LED lights in that 10-story high drum of glass. Now, when you see it illuminated against the stark Chicago American night, you may understand why Chicagoans look at this building and call it the White Castle. Did we give it that name because we are still hoping for some Game of Thrones, the North remembers medieval age past? No. You know why Chicagoans call this building the White Castle? It makes us hungry. For sliders, White Castle hamburgers, the stomach remembers. For the uninitiated, White Castle's a famous Midwestern restaurant with a similar neo-Gothic facade. Friends, when I compare this building to some hamburger joint, look, I'm not trying to make some silly tour guide joke here. I verify my information. It was 2009. I had a White Castle executive from Columbus, Ohio take the tour. We got to talking. Turns out the White Castle restaurant design and this very building, which I already knew about, where do you think they get their inspiration? Where do you think they get their look? Your visitor center that you're going to go see later, Water Tower at Chicago, Michigan Avenue, that little castle that escaped the Great Chicago Fire. Now, the building on the right wanted more attention from tour boats, so they spent a pretty penny and said, let's put ourselves on the map by putting ourselves on the map. That red dot is this building, that's the river. You are here. That's the North Branch. Can you navigate? We'll go right. That's the East Branch back to Navy Pier. Isn't that better than GPS? I think all major cities should have map buildings. So the next time I have to rent a car in Atlanta, Georgia, I can get off that Cloverleaf. I can get off the Cloverleaf downtown in under 3 hours. I didn't know where I was going. Gaze up at the Sears Willis Tower. Gaze up at the Willis Tower one more time, my friends. You might want to visit the Sky Ledge. Look all the way up to the 103rd floor. We can wave. People are taking pictures right now. It's 103 floors up. Now, I must tell you, if you visit the Sky Ledge, there's no middle ground. When you go into it, there's no middle ground. You're either walking on air or you're heaving in the air. That's up to you. It depends on how you feel about high places. You know what happened twice in its history? There's a family up there one day. Now it's a plexiglass floor. There's a very thin coating which is over the plexiglass. That's a warning system. When the scuff coating needs to be replaced. You know how on your car your brake drums will chirp? Brake drums have a chirp, so when the brake drums need to be replaced, they stop making a sound. Well, in this case, that very thin coating, when it needs to be replaced, it just cracks like ice. Unfortunately, when people were up there looking down, they didn't know it was only the 1/4 inch on top. They didn't know they were totally safe. All they saw was the floor cracking underneath. They were a little scared. There was a big cleanup day. Look all the way down the river. Let us look to the Boeing building, my friends. One of the highest clock towers on the planet. Now, as we look at the Boeing building, you're going to notice on the horizontal portion, steel truss. That's a cantilever. Now that's holding part of the building up. The architect left it exposed. You want to know what Chicago style is architecturally? Think of it like this. We're bold, we're beautiful, and we're going to celebrate structure. So Ralph Johnson left it exposed. Can you see how he's making a poetic rhyme with all the bridges over the river? Now here's what's going on. This is one of the air rights buildings, and that truss is holding up 55 by 150 square feet, 12 floors, because it overhangs the railroad switching yard. So consider this. You're hopping freight trains, right? And if you're out hoboing, before you catch out on a train, in the switching yard, you're going to notice this. The tracks are really, really close together. There's no room to put caissons in to support the building. So what are you going to do if you can't support your weight from the ground up? You can suspend it from the ceiling down. That cantilever is like a giant bridge arm reaching out and holding up the land. Speaking of hobos, Madison Street above your head was once called Hobohemia. It was a city of hobos, artists, and the wobblies, industrial workers of the world fighting for one big union. Because Chicago had 3,000 miles of railroad tracks, we were the natural hub for all the guys hopping freights building this country. Hobohemia. You got an education at Dr. Ben Reitman's Hobo College, funded by the millionaire hobo J.C. University of Chicago professors would give the tramps and bums and physicists a lecture, and you could get a Hobo College diploma. Got a copy at home. That was replaced in the 1920s by the Dill Pickle Club, where you might find yourself in conversation with the poet laureate of Chicago, Carl Sandburg, the writer of Nightwood, Juna Barnes, the boxer, Mr. Jack Johnson, or the lawyer, Clarence Darrow. The Dill Pickle replaced by the College of Complexes, the playground for people who think. And this is where you come in. They should be meeting at 8 o'clock. You can go to their lecture. It's open to the public. They've been meeting for 60 years, carrying on the hobo tradition. If you go to a College of Complexes lecture, after the main speaker, you can get involved. Anybody who goes to the lecture can have the speaker's platform for 3 minutes, and you can say whatever you want, whatever is on your mind. And all I ask is that you still honor the Hobo College motto. And they say, please, never interrupt the numbers. Let us come back to the 150 North Riverside by Getch and Partners. I love in this unique design how they use granite to emphasize the strength of the building. Now, look at this building. Consider this. Feel the wind. When they did the wind test on this building, they discovered it wants to sway quite a bit. You must have a heavy counter object for the sway. What do you think the counter object is made of? Water. There are 12 water tanks at the top of this building holding 160,000 gallons of water. And I will tell you this, from camping in the Black Rock Desert outside of Reno, Nevada for 17 years, always taking in my own water. That's a lot of ballast. Let's get a little technical now, shall we? These are actually known as inertial slosh mass dampers. Every time your building wants to sway one way, the inertia, the stasis is the water. It doesn't want to move. So think of your building as if it is a puppy dog on a leash. It can only go so far, and then it's going to be pulled back. The water is going to slosh against the opposite wall, dampening the effect. Only two buildings have that, 150 and Vista Tower. We re-enter the main stem of the Chicago River, going straight from building on our right, 333 West Wacker Drive, home of Henderson Motors, 1983. Cornerstone that revitalized the river. This is a great example of contextualism where you pay attention to the environment. Now here's the thing, this building was done in 1983, but can you see how it could have been done yesterday? It really had the right idea. It was prescient, if you will. And that's why, look at all the new architecture around you. It's all striking. Why? Because this building in 1983, 25 years earlier, said if you're going to build at the confluence of the branches of the river, you better do your best. You better bring your A game. And more importantly, this building is where Ferris Bueller's Dad worked and the popular teen comedy Ferris Bueller's Day. Let's go back to the Merchandise Mart across the river. Such a striking example of Art Deco. Now, friends, when we talk about Art Deco, think of Great Gatsby after Scott Fitzgerald. Think of the early 1920s. We don't know about the crash of 29 yet. The early 1920s in America was a period of unbridled optimism. We thought it would last forever. And there was a sense of the country just moving forward all the time. And you see that even in the architecture. There was an emphasis on speed and moving and verticality. How did they achieve that with the mark? By slightly recessing the windows in. Largest structure in America prior to completion of the Pentagon. 4,600 windows over 7 miles of hallways. You know what? They had to give the Merchandise Mart its own zip code. And it cost $32 million. The Marshfield Department Store commissioned it, dreaming of a giant wholesale market that woke up to the Great Depression. Had to let it go to $13.5 million when Joe Kennedy picked it up, father of our late president and senators. Now, Joe Kennedy was a man of action. He got things done. He realized with 96 acres of floor space, the building would perfectly suit the furniture and design industry, who have showrooms throughout today. Now, you see that bank of projectors right on your right? Mark made a 30-year. That is the work of artists. Those projectors are about, as soon as the sun goes down, we're going to use the Merchandise Mart as a screen. And they've been doing this for 2 years. It's going on for 28 years. And it's all different. One day it was psychedelic and digital. The next day I saw a herd of zebra running across the facing Merchandise Mart. Now on the right, friends, we're passing Wacker Drive, the world's first bi-level roadway. Burnham conceived it and planned in 1909. His co-author, Edward Bennett, Charles Wacker, completed it in 1926. The upper level to get you through the city with a work road underneath all your physical plan needs. Check out the builder's building on your right, 1927. Now almost 50 years later, 1986, 2 more rooms a barrel. And in addition, now look at the big change in the middle of the building. Bay windows to increase the amount of light coming in. Coming up next is the LaSalle Wacker building, and that's Art Deco from 1930. Cage style. If you notice in Art Deco buildings, they kind of look like an armchair or throne. They'll have a high central portion, everything else is cut lower. This was a physical phenomenon known as the canyon effect. When they first start building skyscrapers, the sunlight and fresh air from the streets is blocked off. And you know what was in the streets of Chicago? Horse manure from the horse-drawn trolley system, smoke from all those railroads, and the detritus of all the butcher shops and meatpacking plants. You can hardly breathe. You find an ordinance written in 1923, only 1/4 of the building is an out higher than 260 feet. Everything else is cut lower so you can breathe a little fresh air. Now on the right, friends, let's talk a moment about Wacker Drive. Wacker Drive was the world's first bi-level roadway. Burnham conceived it in the plan of 1909. His co-author, Edward Bennett, and Charles Wacker completed it in 1926. The upper level gets you through the city with a work room underneath for all your vision plan needs. Now what's happening today, Wacker Drive has had millions and millions pumped into it. This is the new Riverwalk idea. And we must give credit to Daniel Burnham, the plan of 1905. Burnham was a student of history. In this very moment, I am looking at Daniel Burnham in my mind's eye. He's sitting in a cafe in Paris, France, along the River Seine, and he's taking copious notes, as he did and studied the great cities around the globe. And you know what you will find? They rise up along rivers, because a river means industry, it means wealth, and often it has a spiritual aspect as well. But for Chicago's history, it was very important. Burnham noticed this: industry often begins on water, and it transfers to land, and a river goes from industrial to recreation use. Burnham saw the future. He left the plan of Chicago so we can make it a reality today. You are looking at the vision of Daniel Burnham, the Riverwalk today. Hello, good citizens. Can we thank Daniel Burnham and the plan of 1909? It's why you enjoy the Riverwalk tonight. Huzzah, huzzah, hooray for Daniel Burnham. Am I the only one that cheers for architecture? How about one cheer for all the architecture on the river today? There we go. We can check the word finish. 35 West Wacker Drive coming up on our right. Advertising firm, the Leo Burnett Company. Irish architect Kevin Roche nodding to Chicago School. Building his green column, base, shaft, and capital. His famous Louis Sullivan quote of the Chicago School. Remember Jeannie Gang? Tallest building in the world by a woman-led architecture firm with her Vista Towers. When she first built her first skyscraper, look all the way down the river, see the one with the crazy burger. That was Jeannie Gang's first skyscraper. It is called Aqua Towers, 859 feet. Look to the right of that. Can everyone see the dark green Art Deco building with a 50-foot gold cap? Looks very much like a giant bottle of champagne, you know? Today it is the Hotel St. Jane, named for a first social worker, Jane Addams. But the fact that it looks like a bottle of champagne may have been intentional. It dates back to Prohibition, when legally you couldn't be popping a cork on a bottle of alcohol. It was designed for Union Carbide by the Burnham brothers. What do you think? Many people think the champagne design was no accident. It may have been, let us say, a little bit of editorial comments, if you will, on the dining room inspired since two Prudential Plaza, Echo Devil from the 1990 second building of Prudential Insurance. In the background, at 1,136 feet, the current third tallest building in Chicago, the Aon Center, formerly Standard Oil. Look to the left of Hotel Wyndham, and you find the skinniest skyscraper in Chicago, 75 East Wacker Drive, only 9.5 foot across that octagonal crown. And now, 2 minutes. Period of silence to reflect on it. And I'm going to lubricate my throat with a little hot tea. Look to your left, friends. It looks like a Gothic Cathedral Tribune Tower, former home to the Chicago Tribune newspaper, now going condominium. You could live here for only $700,000 to $7 million for a condo in Tribune Tower. And 1922, Colonel McCormick at a trip offered $100,000 in a worldwide design contest for the most beautiful office building in the world. 264 entries came in from around the globe. Halls of New York wind inspired by the Gothic cathedrals of France and Belgium in their design. Now, if you are a big fan of Joan of Arc, and I mean, you know, who isn't? It was the Butter Tower of the Rouen Cathedral in France. That was their inspiration. And what could be more different and minimalist than the brand new Apple Store on our left from my favorite London architect, Sir Norman Foster. You talk about minimalism, there it is. An invisible wall and roof that evokes the idea of an Apple laptop and the Prairie School. Friends, walk the magnificent mile when you can. Start at the Wrigley Building, stop at the Water Tower. Your end point is coming up on our left. This is the Centennial Building. This is a very important Chicago building named the former John Hancock Center of Big John. It was the first of our giants, 1969. Architect Bruce Graham and from Bangladesh, first engineering partner for Skidmore, Lawrenceville, Dr. Fazla Khan. That's the same team that did the Willis Tower. Willis Tower might be taller, but look to your left. That's the work of art, friends, right there. Pay close attention to the colored lights on the 94th floor. That is Big John, the former John Hancock Center, 1,127 feet, 100 stories. I urge you to visit that building. Upon arrival, trust me on this, do not immediately run into the Cheesecake Factory restaurant. Give yourself 30 seconds to look at its distinctive tapering profile. You know what will happen to you? You'll get euphoric. You'll start feeling like you are flying, although your feet are on the ground. And then, here it comes again. You'll see it again. Take the elevator to floor 94, where you see the colored lights. That is Chicago 360 tilt. It is a glass box with 8 windows. Get in with 7 people. They will start the motor. And then they will tilt you 30 degrees into the air. No one knows why. Then, go 1 floor up to the family-friendly Signature Room Lounge, where ladies, we have saved the best view for you and you alone. For the Signature Room Lounge, ladies, there is a window for it. It reaches from the floor to the ceiling. It looks over on the back. Sullivan said form follows function. The function for Jeannie is to get every floor of her aqua towers a unique view. Look at the balconies. She worked from the outside in, first finding a view like Millennium Park, and then using models and laser pointers, pointing a laser from the park back towards the building. If the laser went right in the window, everything's copacetic. You had a view. If the laser hit the wall, Jeannie picks up the balcony and moves it maybe 2 feet left or right. You still have it. Coming up on our left, friends, is a beautiful fountain, Centennial Fountain. This beautiful Vermont granite fountain was designed by Ludwig Mies van Rohe's grandson, Dirk Lohan, in 1989 to commemorate the group of reverse Lookout, the Chicago Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. Unlike the Northern River, the Chicago River flows uphill out of the lake. That's one of the 7 engineering wonders of the United States. Chicago. The name of the river comes from the Native American Chicago. Bring them down. The city by a third. I watch the flames leaping in the air. But that windy city crowd, they are tough and they are proud. They built those skyscrapers in the air. They built those skyscrapers in the air. They built those skyscrapers.